All right, ferret folk, listen up because this is important. I'm hoping that you can learn from my mistake and maybe save a ferret's life. Last night, Wriggles and Scruffles were in here with me as usual playing, and Wriggles got herself into the bottom drawer of the cabinet over there. I keep just bedding in there, guest bedding, blankets and stuff like that. And I didn't think there was a problem with it. They go in there sometimes, they have a snuffle around, you know, I'm going to have to wash the bedding before I use it for guests staying, but no big deal, right? And then Scruffles was being very cute. She was actually up in the cage there and she took a bit of a snuggle up there. So I went up there and had a bit of a snuggle with her. And one of the things that I always say is during playtime, silence is a very dangerous thing for ferret owners, because if they're being quiet, it means that something is going on. And I suddenly realised that Wriggles was completely silent. I hadn't heard from her for a little while. And I called her and I looked around and I couldn't see anything. And then I called her again and I looked around and I saw the top of the blankets just go poof like that, and I was like, oh okay, she's just in there snuggling away. Gave it another 30 or so seconds, and then this madam here, she was kind of like looking very tired, like she wanted to go back into bed. So I decided, okay, time to put them back into their bed. And I called Wriggles, and again I saw the blanket just go poof like that. So I was like, oh, she's not wanting to come out. And so I pulled the top blanket out, and Madam here had managed to get her head. This was in there, folded up with all the other blankets. It's a crocheted shawl that I got from my mum. And Wriggles had got her head through one of these holes. And remember the 2-finger rule, if 2 adult fingers can fit in a hole, so can a ferret potentially. But the trouble is, because this was all folded up in amongst the other blankets, she'd obviously pushed her head through and then hadn't been able to get her legs through. And she'd started to turn, trying to get free. And what was happening with every turn, she was winding it tighter and tighter around her neck. Oh, I can't even imagine if Scruffles hadn't, you know, sort of been egging for bed and I'd just sort of been playing on my phone or whatever, I might not have noticed until it was too late. Of course, I was able to instantly pull her out, supported her weight, supported the blanket's weight, got the, you know, the tightness away from her throat, and then unwound her and set her free. It's not the first time this has happened to me either. When I first got the ferrets, those of you who have been following us from the very, very beginning, the day one, literally, night one, it was warm, it was hot weather, and so I'd cut up an old sheet to give them some bedding to sleep in that wasn't too heavy. And I just, you know, put a large square of sheet in their sleep box. And thank goodness we had 24/7 cameras streaming to Twitch, and the moderators were watching, and one of the moderators had my telephone number. Thank you, Stu. And what had happened was there was just a small frayed hole in one of the sheets. Wriggles again had got her head through that hole, had not been able to get herself free of it, and was turning herself over and over trying to break free. And again, you know, that material just tightening around. And I'm sorry to, you know, be dramatic, but it's genuinely a real problem, because if they can't get themselves out, they will tend to turn themselves over and over. And when fabric and a hole is involved, that can mean the fabric tightens like a tourniquet around their neck. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if the stream hadn't been live and people hadn't been watching and somebody hadn't warned me. I ran straight down. It was pretty tight around her neck. She was also quite distressed by the experience. So this is just really, I'm sure a lot of you have already thought of this, you know, and have got it covered, especially the more experienced ferret owners among you. But honestly, it's so easy not to think about these things. in amongst a bunch of other blankets was this folded up. I couldn't hear her struggling because she was, you know, all in amongst the blankets. They don't make a noise generally. You know, sometimes if they're hurt, they can do a duke, but generally you know, it's really difficult to know what's going on if they're not making a noise. And thank goodness I found her before this had tightened too much and she'd lost oxygen to her brain, essentially. So, yeah, just your warning to learn from my mistake and make sure, even if you think something is completely safe, make sure that there isn't something in it that your ferret can get into trouble from. Yeah, no fancy edit for this one. This is literally just a straight up public service announcement, and I hope you take it to heart. Thank you so much for supporting us, and I'll see you next time, Floof Crew.